Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of SUGTalks. I'm Craig Dale, your host, and together with our special guests, we'll take a deep dive into the topics, challenges and opportunities facing SAP users today. Please make sure you subscribe so you never miss another episode. I'm delighted to be joined today by John Wager, Head of Technology and People at Saddleback, UKISUG Board Member and also Chair of the UKISUG Business One Community. And in today's episode, we're going to take a deeper dive into our Business One Special Interest Group and talk with John about where he sees the SIG benefit in Business One users and how you can get involved. So, John, welcome. And for this week's icebreaker, given we're about a month away from Halloween, I just thought I'd ask what your favourite horror or scary movie is. And while you're thinking about that, go on, go straight in.
I thought about that all the time. It's just, I love films, but it's one of those genres that I'm not a great fan on.
Really?
Although, having said that, if you're going to get close enough, I'd probably go for The Shining.
Okay.
It's, I've read the book. Book's great, but the film is absolutely fantastic, and the follow-up as well is also well worth a watch. So, but some of the slasher ones, the more modern ones, I'm not such a fan of those.
It's interesting that, because I think I was more of a fan of horror earlier than like now, and you're right, when I was younger, and things like The Shining, and one I watched, I think I was a teenager at the time, The Thing, about when they're in the Arctic, and,
yeah,
that was one that sticks in my mind. But I think I'd go back longer than that and say, the old Dracula types with Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing, those ones are probably more my thing. But yeah, like you, it's probably not a genre I'll watch these days. I think it's kind of going for the gore fest and shockability of things now, rather than the whole movie. But thanks for that. I appreciate that. So The Shining it is. Well,
exactly. We'll stick to that.
Yeah. John, so I know you have your day job at Saddleback, your Business One Special Interest Group Chair, and you joined us as a board member earlier this year. So, to start, could you let us know how you got started in Business One?
I've been at Saddleback now for 12 years, and just before I started, Saddleback had got to that point in time and size and scale that they needed to make a change from, I think it was Sage Line 50 they had. There was no warehouse management system as such. It's just the guys, we were just at a point where we knew where stuff was on the shelves, as opposed to now, there's thousands of SKUs. So they'd put it in with the original company. They'd gone completely against my advice on the servers that they were suggested. So they got these terrible servers. So by the time that I turned up, it was, as the IT manager, I'd already been on the race team for a couple of years, so I knew them really, really well. But turned up on day one, having to really firefight some of the IT staff, set up all the Exchange servers, make sure everything was on a reasonable level. And I'd never seen SAP Business One before. So Andrew, who's still here, he'd essentially binned most of his day job as doing the marketing at the time, and really taken on the responsibility for doing SAP. And I think he was more than glad to hand that over to me. So I was really like a fish out of water. Never touched anything like that in my life before, and it's been a learning experience for those 12 years since. As we've gone from setting up web shops with through Shopify, the integrations there. We're on our third warehouse management system now. As we've grown up in scale, we've moved buildings. It's just like, and now we've got some really top line stuff, and really investing properly in IT, in SAP Business One, and now it's really cutting edge as a system. But there's still room for improvement, as I think anyone will always find.
Yeah, oh, fantastic. Sounds like a really a great journey, and a journey that's continuing now, which is excellent. And so how did that lead you to get involved with the user group?
The first thing I was tasked with was to find a warehouse management system. So I went round half a dozen companies, One of those companies had our mutual friend Tim Guest was on the other side of the fence at that point. He hadn't actually come into the user group. I don't think he was the chairman at that point either. And we just had a really, really good relationship, having a chat about SAP Business One. I mean, we've got a great love of watches and all sorts of things outside of the SAP environment anyway. So having those mutual conversations is always quite nice. And he was such a big advocate of Business One and coming along to the user group, and it fitted very much with, my background's in racing bikes. It's, for everything I do, I don't ground myself in IT or, an MBA or anything else. It's all about racing bikes and working as a team. And what you can get from working as a team is always greater than you can get working together. And it very much works for the user group as well. Those shared experiences, bringing all that together. So Tim brought me into that. I started coming along to those user group sessions pretty regularly. Then he tapped me up to try and do some presentations at it. So I started doing the odd presentation. And from there, it was really that journey to getting to know the guys really, really well. And when then he moved on, I think Sotos was chair for a little while. And then he then tapped me up and said, well, I'd like to get involved. So it is very much that process of getting the tap on the shoulder and moving up.
Oh, excellent. And I really like what you said there about, working as a team. And if you look at the UKISUG community, it is, and as you said, a crucial factor, I think, of when people get together and then start working together and collaborating, that's when the magic happens. And, I would completely agree with that. And from your conversations with fellow Business One users, what do you think are some of the major challenges facing them today?
I was going to say, where do you start, especially after the last week?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you just need to go back a few years. It's, personally, it's Brexit has been a huge one. I mean, we're a big importer of goods, but you do get the feeling that the knock-on effects from that are then felt through all areas of the business, through the economy. So it's so whilst we might feel it directly, there's others that feel it indirectly. Now, if it was just that was thrown at you, you can probably deal with that, and we're still dealing it with nowadays with trying to put in a customs warehouse system. But then you start throwing in things like, the pandemic. You've then got all the price rises. It's so all of a sudden you've got all of these things thrown at people, and you're trying to cope with all of that. And then you've got all your HR challenges that go with that as well. So as a business, I mean, it's just like, it's really challenging times at the moment to be able to get through and survive through this. Anyone that does is doing really well. It's there's a lot of different things to juggle, a lot of different pressures coming from all directions. And to try and navigate your way through it, I think is going to be tough. But with, certainly we found with Business One, it's that thing that's like the stabilizers on a ship. It keeps us grounded. It keeps us moving forwards. So hopefully with the aid of that should keep us and to keep other Business One users steady and moving. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I completely, concur with what you said there about it. It's certainly been an interesting few years, and the challenges we all face seem to change on a day-to-day basis. And I know you and Saddleback, like everybody else, obviously were impacted by the pandemic, and we were all impacted in different ways. And what were some of your challenges, and potentially in the cycling industry, the opportunities, and how did you overcome the challenges and grasp onto some of those opportunities?
I mean, in some ways, it wasn't a huge challenge. And that's not to say that flippantly in any way. I think I said before that, we'd come to realise that when you invest in IT and Business One, you can achieve a lot with it. And because we'd gone from having these terrible little servers that used to restart all the time, and realised that if you invest and do it properly, you can have something that's stable. When it actually got announced that we were going into a lockdown, it was really a case of, okay, well, people are going to work at home then, cool. We'll give them their phone, they can take their PC home, and I think between myself and my IT guy, Luis, we'd got everyone up and working in a day. it wasn't a huge challenge to do it. We had the line in place, we had the remote desktop stuff in place. We were already big fans of Office 365 and using Teams. It wasn't a massive stretch. Initially using Teams was a different way of doing business to what we'd done before. And you do lose some of the nuance of having face-to-face conversations, but there was definitely a skeleton staff within the office itself, because as a distributor, you can't send your warehouse guys home. They have got to come in. So we did put a lot of work in place to make sure that, the upstairs and the downstairs where we are was segregated to an extent to try and minimize any risks. The warehouse guys are absolutely fantastic in coming in, working hard. And as soon as we'd heard that, I guess it was, you're going from the swing from one way to the other. It's just, as soon as it's shut down, you don't know what's going to happen. It's just like, well, we've got bills to pay. How are we going to do this? What's going to go on? Are we going to wind the company up? To all of a sudden saying bike shops are open. And it really was a case of, if it wasn't bolted down, it was getting sold. It was just, people were buying absolutely everything. It took 4 to 6 weeks for that really to kick in and people to go for it. But it was, it was an absolutely crazy time for trying to move stuff. Everyone got involved down in the warehouse. Everyone was helping out. And then bit by bit, as we were then scaling back up and when it was safe to do so, we'd bring people back into the office. So, for the 12 years, I've always had a proportion of my time working from home anyway. So essentially I've got the system set up so I can essentially manage it just from a phone, restart servers, check what people are up to, look on all the cameras. I've got all my cyber security, everything's through that phone. So it's so I've always made sure that remote working has been a big thing. And I think that really helps survive. Whereas speaking to some of the others in our industry, it's just like they had old phone systems. So they were just forwarding calls through to mobiles. They were phoning orders back into their central office to get put onto the system to then get a third party to pick it and send it out. And they'd survive. They'd do well doing it. But it was just the hoops they'd set themselves to jump through from the start without having that foresight to think, what if we invest in something, you're going to get a decent return out of it.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Hi, we're the UK and Ireland SAP user group. Did you know we're a fiercely independent not-for-profit? Did you know we're a vibrant community of over 6,500 SAP users? And did you know we help each other by sharing resources, championing education, and influencing SAP's future development? Well, you do now. If you'd like to get the most from your SAP investments and be in the know, visit our website, sapusers.org/pod. We hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast.
And obviously, so you mentioned work controlling everything via your mobile. Obviously, your phone's a very important tool for you. And when we look at this, and obviously the focus of Business One as well, how did you need to leverage Business One for this? How does Business One play in that?
Anyone that's at home and that can do that, the sales side, the financial side, merchandising, it's set up so you can use a remote desktop and work from anywhere. It's, you could be, you've seen the classic image of a few weeks ago of some guy setting up his laptop with everything around and sitting on the beach. If you've got the connectivity, then in theory, then you can go through and do it. As long as you're doing a good job and delivering, then it's possible. It's I think the issues always come when it's the conversations that you miss. So if even if it's one department talking to another, there's only so much you can do on a Teams call. Whereas if you can just walk straight across, have a cup of coffee, grab an office or something, and it's right, I've got a problem with how we do this. This process isn't quite working, and you can talk it out. And it doesn't quite work so well when you're doing it remotely. But as I say, Business One has been that the thing that stabilizes us all the way through. Everything in the business goes through it, and it's been rock solid for us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, excellent. And the from the Business One perspective, and a lot of our listeners will be in kind of the ECC space and S/4HANA space, and obviously Business One is one of SAP's products for the small and medium enterprise market, and is sold 100% through the channel. So obviously you're quite heavily reliant then on the partner network, and what is the support network like for Business One One users? And do you feel, is there more that SAP and partners could be doing for Business One customers?
I think there's always more that they could do. It's, when you see the work that the user group can do in bringing people together and seeing what's possible, that's, in my opinion, surely what everyone should be aiming for. It's, I think, it's the easiest way of putting it. Yeah, if you've got a very good partner and a very good relationship, you can go a long way, but I think you need to see beyond that partner sometimes, and SAP to give you other ways of doing things that might be better suited to your business. SAP Business One, although it's the baby of the stable, it can essentially run your business up to, I've heard of people doing up to, over 100 million turnover using SAP Business One. Mm-hmm. It's so it's not small by any stretch, and if it can run a full business doing that, then it's just like, and every business is unique. It's I say that there is almost a long-standing joke within Saddleback that every time we go and ask for something, we're told we're the first people that ever needed to do it that way, and it's just like, I don't know what it is. I don't think we're doing anything different than moving boxes into the company and trying to make some money and sell them back out and, keep people happy riding bikes. It's, that doesn't seem complicated when you say it like that, but it's all those nuances and intricacies and everything that go with it with every single business. So every one of those Business One users that I speak to, there's always something slightly different that they're doing that is, and it's essential for them, it just wouldn't work for us. So it's so being able to have that that way of finding out what other people are doing to solve problems is essential in my mind. It's I think you can only go so far with your own reseller. It's and I think if they could push more of the success stories, say this is what we're doing, if SAP can get involved with that and then highlight some of those stories to say what they're doing through different verticals, then that would be great. It's all about finding that spark and just like, well, what if we did it that way? And that's how the conversation starts. You can then, just because another reseller's gone and done a particular way of doing it and they've got their name at the bottom of that case study, doesn't mean you can go and ask your reseller and say, look, they do something really similar. We want to do that. Let's have a chat. Yeah. That's how it, in theory, I think I see it starting. And then you can do better things with the money that you spent.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, excellent. Thank you. And for you mentioned there obviously what the user group does in bringing people together in that community, and from the Business One Special Interest Group community, how is the SIG supporting its members?
We try and do some regular events and coffee sessions. The coffee sessions are just very relaxed. You can log in for half an hour, 40 minutes if you're going to take the conversation offline. And you can just talk through the challenges that you've got without any agenda at all. Just dip in, dip out, have a chat. And it's nice just to catch up. Whereas the organised sessions themselves, we tend to try and have some sort of one of our members doing a talk about what they've been doing, what challenges they've faced, how they've addressed it, what technical solution they used for it, and just answering any questions about it, and then potentially a partner coming in as well, or a third-party vendor coming along and showing us how they've tackled any problems, be that around reporting or document management. It could be anything. And then when we then get the feedback at the end of those sessions, we can then start looking through that just to see, are there any particular themes where we should go the next time round?
Mm-hmm. Oh, excellent. And so looking at that, what's the Business One SIG got coming up over the next few months for its members?
Well, I was going to say, the big one's going to be Connect. It's I'm already getting quite excited about that one. The end of November is going to be like a really good time for Business One users to come along and see something that's a little bit different. As I said, we've had the standard fare of Zoom meetings and doing everything and everyone sort of not trying to talk over everyone else, whereas all of a sudden we can actually be sitting down face to face, have a beer, have a coffee, have a cup of tea, drink water, and just have those conversations about what you've been doing. But the idea behind it is to try and get as many of these third-party resellers to come along, show us how they've achieved solutions for problems that they've seen with the products that they've got. Showcase those to all the Business One users, and then spark those conversations. So they can then go away with that spark back to their own reseller and just say, look, this looks really, really cool. It's just like, I want to find a way of doing a customs warehousing, or I want to find this way of more reporting or systems integration and do multiple sites as opposed to the single one that I do, and start those conversations afterwards. So by seeing such a broad range of suppliers, that will hopefully be the trigger for them to start thinking about what they do to move forward as a business.
Oh, excellent. So getting people back in a room and, with some really good add-on vendors and sharing what's new, how customers can leverage Business One to their organisation's advantage. Oh, excellent. And I think going back to what you said previously as well about that building relationships, and it kind of reminded me of a quote I read recently in a book by Simon Sinek, which kind of said, you can't build trust through a screen, you build trust in person. And I think that is a crucial part of relationships and work, and being part of a community. That face-to-face element allows you to build trusted relationships with your peers, with other people within your community that have similar likes. And yeah, I think that relationship is a key thing. So looking forward to that. And, for those of you who perhaps don't know, the conference 27th to the 29th of November in Birmingham, and the Business One Showcase will be running on the 28th of November, and it's at the ICC in Birmingham. Hope to see you there. So if you were making a sales pitch to Business One users that are not part of the user group, what would you say to them?
As a sales pitch, I think it comes back, circles back to what you said at the very beginning and being part of a team. It's, if you can sit down and have those conversations about how to break something down to its smallest components, and then just share the experience you've got. How did what mistakes did you make? It's just learning from other people's mistakes is fundamental. You don't learn from other people's successes mainly. You learn from what mistakes they made, and then try not to repeat them. So being able to find out how 20 other people or 50 other people made a mistake about how to put a customs warehousing in would be amazing, because then we wouldn't have had to go through some of the challenges that we've had. So it's so just to be able to come along and and share your own experience as well. It's it's very much a two-way conversation. It's you're away from anyone that's going to judge you on it. Everyone's going through exactly the same thing. We're all trying to get out, ride our bikes, put shoes on our kids' feet at the end of the day, and enjoy life. It's none of this should be too taxing. It's just like you in a good environment with people that are doing very, very similar things, and you're always going to get more from it than you are by not going to it.
That's great, because when I've been along to the Business One special interest group meetings, that one of the key things is that that sharing, like you say, sharing experiences, learning from others, and when we see customers sharing their experiences, and this is a thing about the independent community. We can share it warts and all. You're getting the pitfalls, you're understanding the challenges others have faced and how they overcome them. And by sharing that in that environment, it certainly does. I've seen, people leave some of those meetings with that light bulb that's gone off in the head to, that takes them on their next journey and helps them solve some of the issues that they have. So completely understand where you're going with that. And, from people getting involved in the community overall, in any special interest group, so kind of looking, I suppose, wider now, when we think about, for instance, you chair the Business One community, and I'm sure that you would like to speak to other Business One users and get their input on, how, you take the Business One group forwards. What would you say to others who perhaps might want to get part of a committee, perhaps in helping you pick the topics that really support customers going forward?
Anything that's going to come and help, it adds a different perspective. If it's me doing it on my own, I'm looking at the feedback and I'm trying to judge that, but without trying to bias it around my own experiences of Business One. It's trying to sort of see it from all views, which sometimes is a little bit harder. So for anyone to get involved in that is great. And then you've then got all the side benefits of that as well. I think you've got the speaking event coming up soon to be able to do your presentations. So it's, there's added benefits from a professional level to coming along and helping out with an organisation like that. And then when you go to things like Connect, you're then talking to people that are outside Business One. But hey, we're all still in business. It's just a different badge that's helping you do that business. You still might be able to then have a chat with those guys and girls, and again, you have a similar light bulb moment. There's another way that they're finding of doing something that you're just thinking, why don't we do business in that way? That's actually pretty cool. It's so to get involved in Business One, that's fantastic. But I think it's what it gives you outside of that as well, from a professional point of view. That's also a huge benefit.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks very much, John. Is there anything else perhaps I haven't asked, or anything that you're burning to say that we haven't covered as yet?
Not massively. I think we've covered all those bits and pieces there. I guess it's really just trying to just get people involved and get them together. It comes back to what I said at the start about being part of a team. And you can see one guy win and he's got his hands in the air up the road, but it's just being part of that and contributing and knowing that you've put something into that. That's, for me, that is everything. And it's exactly the same with the user group, that you can come along, you can share those experiences and all come away better as a result of it. You might have to go there for a year or two to find the exact thing that you want, but you will get that little spark sometimes, and it's that then adds to the business. When you go away, you can go back and it's just like, hey, look, this is a really cool way of doing something. It might take a little while to come to fruition, as some of our things have, but that's the nature of business, I think. That's part of the fun.
Brilliant. John, thank you very much. Really do appreciate your time and, especially your insights into how the Business One community can really help and support Business One users throughout the UK and Ireland. And thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation and found it valuable. So please do make sure you hit that plus button and subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And until the next time, stay safe, stay well, and keep washing your hands.